Welcome to the Fandom Outpost, your podcast for all things pop culture.
Excuse me,
Oh,
Laurie.
Mr. Brackett, I'm sorry, Mr. Brackett.
Oh, I didn't mean to startle you.
That's all right.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining us at the Fandom Outpost. As always, I am one-third of your host. My name is Mark.
I'm Jim.
I'm Bob. Hi, everybody.
We are into October. Pumpkin spice, fall, changing colors of the leaves. Most importantly, though, scary movies. So, given kind of who we are and what we do here at the channel and stuff, we thought it'd be nice to reminisce or talk about what Halloween has been for us and kind of what has scared us, what still scares us, what do we do for Halloween, etc., stuff like that.
Well, I could go on forever because Halloween's pretty much my favorite holiday. So maybe I'm not the one to start.
Maybe not. All right, maybe I will start. I mean, let Jim do it.
Oh, goodness. Well, Halloween is pretty much my favorite holiday, so
Oh, okay. I didn't know for sure.
I always think of Halloween as the time of year when everyone comes around to my way of thinking, right?
I like that. I like that.
So it's
I do like that.
and saying that, you know, I feel like I'm carrying the creepy, spooky monster banner all year long, and I get to put it down a little bit at the end of October and just relax and enjoy it all while it shows up. Now, Halloween was always, I knew as a kid, I knew Halloween was here when we would walk into the local Kmart and the masks and costumes were hanging above the aisles.
Yep.
And that
Like
was
the
better
box
than
you had
any-
behind you.
That's what I was about to say. It's like that box right behind him.
There's a story with that particular year I wore that costume. I'll throw it out later.
Wait,
So that's an original?
that's like you actually wore that
So
as a
okay,
kid?
so here's the deal, right? This is a Ben
We're into
Cooper-
it now, folks. We're off and
We're into it
running.
now. This is a Ben Cooper Halloween costume. It is of the
Yes.
creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yes.
Dang.
And
Nice.
back in our day, this was the go-to Halloween costume. They weren't in a plastic bag hanging at your
Right, Target,
local
whatever.
store. So I was in first grade, and a playground incident of keep away
Uh-oh.
where I was not the fastest person, and I looked behind me to see where they were, and then next thing I know, people were picking me up off the ground because I had run head first into the monkey bars.
Oh,
Oh.
that's right. Oh, my
And then
God.
they-
I forgot about that. And your
and then they
teeth
said-
went through.
Right, and then they
Oh.
said, "You need to go see the lunch lady." And I was like, "What?"
Lunch lady's like, what?
And then the lunch lady was
Oh.
like, "You need to go to the office." So I went to the office because apparently I put my bottom teeth through my lip when I did that.
Oh.
Like that
So-
kid in Halloween 2 with the razor blade.
Right.
Oh,
so,
my God.
There you go.
So so they called my mom. Trip to the hospital later. And my mom was a nurse, so that wasn't as horrifying as it could have been for most parents. But I got stitches in my lip.
Oh.
First time I've ever had
Wow.
Novocaine, so my lip felt like it was this big. So to make up for the day that is now, she's off work and I'm off school. So we went to Kresge's, which was a subsidiary family company of Kmart in Westland Mall. And to my mother's great credit, she was like, "We can make you up like a mummy or Frankenstein," because she was looking to incorporate the stitches, right? My new
Yeah,
stitches.
Yeah.
And I saw this costume on the shelf, and that was what I had to have. So this isn't my original costume, because my original
Okay.
costume I wore to death. I did find
I
this.
was going to say, that thing's
I
probably
wore
destroyed.
it out. It's the thing that got me into collecting monsters, because I found out
Nice.
That's
because I
great.
found out when I had a costume, I could be the creature from the Black Lagoon all year, not just Halloween. So, but this is the
Okay.
right era and the right vintage, and they repress the creature from time to time. But this is the
Nice.
right paint scheme, and this is the right
Take a peek at
face.
that.
Oh,
Nice.
man.
So-
Look at that.
That looks good.
all
Yeah,
in
it
its
looks
garish
good.
color, and I haven't.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Let's take a look. I'm going to forward our editing department a photo. It is not a photo of me, but it is a photo of that I found online of somebody in the right era in front of a giant console piece of furniture TV that they used to have back in the wearing this. Some kid wearing this costume. He's got to be about the right age too. So
Nice.
That's
Nice.
funny. I think I had the Frankenstein one as a kid.
Yes.
Look at
The
that.
plastic.
Garish is the right word, man.
Yeah, it's so bright. I mean, it's good for walking around at night, right?
yes, absolutely.
If you don't know about Ben Cooper, so Ben Cooper, the mask was pretty cool. The outfit was not like the body of the character
Right.
you were portraying.
Never.
It
never,
was just
until later.
a kind of that plastic thing,
Like an
and it would just
advertisement.
have a picture. Yeah, it's an advertisement, and it would say "Creature from the Black Lagoon." But you know what? Honestly, like I gotta say, we didn't give a shit. Those
No,
things were
we
awesome.
didn't. Yeah.
If you had a Ben Cooper, but later on, yeah, you're right.
You wanted to
years
advance
way
it.
past us.
You
They
wanted
would
to
have the
find
bodies.
a suit coat.
Right. As you got older, you were looking to be more of the character than that.
Right.
So many of my Halloweens in those types of costumes. So
Oh, I love it. There's some Spirit Halloweens right now that have reissued some Ben Coopers.
Yes.
They're not reissues. The company
They're-
still exists. So they've put out, or however you want to say it, that type of costume, and there's like some Star Wars and then some superhero ones. So, but I mean, you don't have to dig too deep to find some nice Ben Cooper quality stuff if
And
you
I'll-
wanted to.
and I'll
relive
give
that.
I'll find the link and I'll make sure we have it for when we post this. But there's a really nice documentary on Ben Cooper and their rival
Nice.
company Collegeville and how they came up at about the same time, and things changed
Wow.
for Ben Cooper, and we got the Star Wars license, and there was all that kind of
Right,
fun stuff
right.
going on. But yeah,
So I guess I'm a little bit different. I started with Ben Cooper as any kid would. Now, the story that Jim told, he was at a different school right before he went to the school that I went to, which would be our meeting. By the way, one day we'll have to tell that story to our fans of how you and I met.
Yeah.
So I started with Ben Cooper. My parents or my mother, she was like, yeah, that's okay, but we could do something different. And at the time, I didn't understand. My mother had a sister who was just a world-class seamstress and creative guru. That's the only thing I could say. So she made a lot of stuff. So Ben Cooper to me was kind of like, ooh, we have extra money. I can get a Ben Cooper. But I didn't appreciate it at the time. My aunt making all these costumes and my mom making these. But if we could dig up some of these pictures, you guys can actually see them. You'll be like, oh, okay. Yeah, why not go with those? So, and that would lead to the infamous, there's two costumes that I'll recall, and they were probably around maybe fourth or fifth grade. One is Han Solo, which I will take a photo and post the vest. That another story for another time. That Jim was so graciously that I don't know how he had that all these years, and it got back to my possession, and now as a place on the wall of memory. And then my infamous, as a child, if you can imagine, my anti-hero being Snake Plissken. So imagine at 10 years old, I'm growing out my hair that looks like it does now and getting an eye patch and a black cutoff t-shirt to be Snake Plissken. But those do not, I don't know if you remember Snake Plissken or not, Jim, but.
oh yeah, toilet paper tube on the end of the Uzi, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any photos
towel
of that
tube.
stuff. So
No, yeah, I remember that.
Paper towel tube painted awesomely. And we used to have these foam things that would go on the crossbars of bikes.
Oh yeah.
So I'd shove the foam in there so it would stay solid. Yeah. So my ghetto Snake Plissken, I would give anything if we had photos of those. Now, Bob, your childhood might be a little bit different, but in school for us, we had the infamous parade.
Yes.
So
They do it nowadays too. Yeah,
I didn't know that. So
yeah, my daughter and son in elementary.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Yeah,
had
so
a parade. It was fun.
in elementary school, which ours stopped at, help me again, Jim. Was
Sixth
it sixth
grade.
grade?
Yeah.
Sixth grade, so ours stopped. But they would start with the little
Little kids
tots
first.
and little kids first, and it was one big long chain.
Yeah.
Everybody walked through, and I remember over the years it was great to see all the adult kids and what they were wearing.
Yeah, back then, you're right. I remember walking through the elementary school to the other classes. Yeah.
So the first class went into the second class, and then the second class joined the train of the first class. And you went from class to you just got bigger. Yeah.
You got to see everyone's costume. It was always somebody who was like really inventive, and you're like, damn, I wish I would have done that.
And it was usually the older kids, unfortunately, because it's like they're the ones that had the money or they're whatever, but everybody else had the Ben Cooper stuff or the Now did you guys use before we get to Bob, did you guys did you use the sacks or did you get like the plastic pumpkins or like
plastic pumpkins
your candy
for us.
Carrier of choice? Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It started off the plastic pumpkins. As you became a teenager, you probably were like, I need the pillowcase.
My mom with the foresight was pillowcase all the way.
Yeah, and you get more bang for the buck.
I got a couple earlier ones with like the thing, but after a while, she was like, I would try to come home, but this thing would just be full. So she'd be like, yeah, you need to just take a pillowcase. So what about you, Bob? What's your childhood recollection of Halloween?
Not being able to see movies, obviously, because we were too young. It was kind of the TV movies or the TV shows. And my first memory of something really scary was seeing a clip on the news. They were talking about The Exorcist in theaters, and it was just a couple clips of that movie, and it was her levitating, and her leg gets cut, and it's like that scared the crap out of me as a kid. I'm like, what is going on? I mean, to this day, I remember that levitation with the leg getting cut, and it scared the bejesus out of me, and that kind of started the thing like, okay, I could get really scared about something. And then seeing The Night Stalker with Kolchak, the vampire, the Vegas vampire episode was the one that was like, you could see it at home in the dark. It wasn't, you didn't have to go to a theater. I was a little kid. It's probably about 7, something like that. Probably.
Was it the TV movie?
TV movie, yeah, the pilot, and that was good. If you ever get a chance to see the pilot, that one is good.
That is good.
That's like a current day vampire. So again, I get into the current day stuff, or like it could happen. There's someone could be a vampire. Somebody could enter my neighborhood and go to the hospital and steal blood, and it's like, so that got me going. And then I had the normal costumes as a kid, but then when I got into Halloween, like we talked about in our some of our 80s episodes, seeing Halloween 2 in the theater was kind of the first thing. But before that, I guess I'd say like the Friday the 13th stuff, because that came on cable like before. It was like that weird cable. Was it on TV or
on
whatever?
TV?
It was like
the giant one box that was on top of your TV. You had to switch over to it.
And a friend had that, and it was Friday the 13th Part 2, and it was the bashing through the window at the end.
Oh, yeah.
That scared the crap out of me.
I
so
love
I'm like,
Part 2. That's my favorite.
I know Part 2 is so good.
It's a good one.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah, it's really good.
That surprise at the end was that got me into the wow. You could be shocked and scared. I got that adrenaline feeling of you got to hide under your pillow and watch it, and that's kind of got me sold on it. And then Halloween came around, and then I found a Don Post Michael Myers mask back in the day. I still got it. It's all yellow and falling apart now, but yeah, so I get made fun of a lot because I was always the Michael Myers from like my teenage years, probably 9th grade and up.
I have specific memories of the two of you guys, which is kind of funny because like you both were in your own right. These two guys, like, they both loved Halloween and Michael Myers because it was a way to,
the boogeyman.
Yeah, boogeyman stuff. So,
everybody was afraid of him.
Yeah, that's the thing, I'm sure a photo is going to surface on here of Bob in his early attempts at Michael Myers.
That's when you started helping incorporating. We got into wanting to make it more theatrical and scare kids coming trick or treat. So we'd put like black paper bags all around the porch to kind of enclose the porch, so they'd have to come in and put some scary lights. You'd have to find some lighting or a strobe light or a green light or blue light. I always like doing all that stuff. I still do it nowadays. I try to get some blue lights and put it up because I always associate the blue lighting with Halloween, the movie, because there's a lot of blue light in that. So I try to get that feel of my dream would be to have a haunted house made up to be like Myers' house. That's yeah. That's kind of like my far off dream. I think that'd be fun.
Bob had the right idea, because when kids come up to the house, we had this father come up and he pulled the two of us aside and he said, "Hey man, I love what you guys got, but would you mind going away so that my kid can go get some candy? Because your dad was passing out the candy."
Yeah.
So we had to go step off the porch and walk down the yard away so that they could walk up to the house. Kids wouldn't go up there with us standing there. And so
that's when you had to find your limit of how old of a kid you could scare. It was probably probably 10 years old and up. You didn't want to scare the little kids.
Well, here's another quick story of Halloween as our youth. So when we went into the teenage years, we have a friend. His name is Lorenzo. And one night, I think Jim walked from his house, but Jim had created his own Michael Myers mask and setup with the overalls and stuff, which was really good looking. I wish to this day we had pictures of that, but we don't. But it was really good. But the key was Jim had correct me if I'm wrong, I think they're called a Walkman. And he was playing the music on loop after loop after loop. So whereas me and Bob on the porch, we just got a good stereo system and played it, Jim had to put this in his pocket while he walked around. So speaking of our friend Lorenzo, Jim stood down the street, but you could hear the music first. And I remember Lorenzo at the time looking and really looking. He's like, "What is that out there?" Because you could hear the music, and Jim would just kind of duck in and out of stuff. And I got to admit, I knew who it was because he'd given me the heads up. But it was some scary ass shit. Like, I'm not going to lie about that, because Lorenzo was like terrified, and you kept coming closer and you'd pause. And I'm like, these guys and their theatrics, fellas. I don't have anything like that, but folks, let me tell you, if there were video cameras that we could have recorded 24/7 like there is stuff nowadays, you would see some gold from these two fellows right here.
We had to do it the hard way too, with hardware, headphones or whatever.
Right.
Nowadays you got Bluetooth, you could put a speaker anywhere, you could put a tiny camera anywhere. It's like we had such a hard time trying to be theatrical or filmic in our scaring of Halloween.
For me, it was before that they figured out what the Michael Myers mask was. So there were no commercially available Michael Myers masks when I did it.
Right.
So it was one of these masks that you would get at Kmart that was clear, that would be like just a person's face.
Right.
A face?
And I went and I painted it white, and then I made up the rest of my head white. And then it wasn't a Walkman. It was one of those full like cassette players with the handle.
Oh my God!
And I put a string around my neck, and I stuck it in my costume. And they didn't even have fake knives. I had to cut one out of plywood and spray paint it, because you couldn't buy that stuff at the Halloween store yet.
Oh my God!
Lorenzo was a good sport. It was fun. God. So a lot of fun on Halloween was kind of planning it. For years, I used to go and help my friend Jeff Wehinkle, who made this skull behind me. And if there's a wide shot, the butler's still there. He used to make Halloween props. And Halloween, we didn't even decorate at our house. We went over to his house and set up his yard. He always kind of had some little, like, out of the park, full-size figures. Oh, it's Pumpkinhead. Oh, it's, Pinhead from Hellraiser.
Wow.
Oh, it's,
right.
We did that for years.
In modern times here, I don't get into Halloween as much as you guys. My wife's a big Halloween thing. And I know Bob he champions it. And Jim, you have your own way and stuff like that.
You picked up a nice mask last year when we all went out to that place, Halloween shop.
I didn't think I was going to do that, but I did. And I put that together, and
that thing looked good.
Yeah. And I got to admit, I had such nostalgic vibes from me and you, Bob, because the kids wouldn't come up to our table to get the candy. I had to go away or turn around and do stuff like that. Like my wife, she was freaked out by it. Like I'd stand in the garage and that that picture I sent you guys a while ago of just our garage at night.
Right.
Like I'd stand in there and I'd slowly come into the light.
Right.
And she'd be like, you do that again and we're divorced. Like, it's like, she's like, I can't handle that all night. Yeah. So I admit, I was like, that was well worth it it gave me that whole nostalgia vibe and stuff. But
fun.
To talk about what you guys talked about really quick, when I was a kid, it was Salem's Lot.
Oh,
like that's the one.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I remember that scaring me a lot. Yeah, dude, that kid at the window.
You can't
beat that, man.
Just the way they looked in there.
I honestly don't remember the years on that.
That still would get me.
Oh, Jeffrey Lewis rocking in the rocking chair.
Yeah, dude, that stuff is, I still to this day, I introduced it to my kids one day, right? So I was like, listen, we're going to watch this movie. Sam was like, oh, what's it about? It's about vampires, straight up. Ain't going to lie to you. It's one of my favorite, if not the favorite. And I waited and be like, because like, when are we going to watch this? I'm like, tonight? Like, like I'm not watching it during the day. We're going to turn the lights off. Yeah. And my kids were like, they got through it. They were on the young side, but about the same age I watched and stuff, but they were like, okay. I like that some of these still hold up. So Bob talking about The Exorcist, that Salem's Lot thing, Kolchak, just all that kind of stuff creepy, that got you as a kid, creepy stuff as a kid, which nowadays it's blood and gore and your screams, and it's just not like that.
They used to have made-for-TV movies, like Salem's Lot was a made-for-TV 2-night event.
Right.
Things like the Zuni fetish warrior doll from the last segment of Trilogy of Terror, right? That freaked a lot of people out.
By Dan Curtis.
Dan Curtis of Dark Shadows and Kolchak and
Kolchak and stuff. Yeah, there's something else that as a kid, that scared me. But you guys were talking about some very specific stuff. So the Three Stooges used to run on at midnight. That we had, and I don't know what it was, comedy something, but. They would come on at midnight. They would, for some reason, repeats of the Three Stooges.
Comedy
stayed up on our channel, on our channel 50. Yeah, thank you. And so, but late at night like that is when all your horror movies would get your trailers. One of the Dawn of the Dead trailers used to freak me out because it was the head. It was
slowly coming up.
Yeah, slowly the head of the main zombie coming up.
In 1968, George Romero brought us Night of the Living Dead. It became the classic horror film of its time. Now, George Romero brings us the most intensely shocking motion picture experience for all times. Dawn of the Dead. Night of the Living Dead has ended. Dawn of the Dead is here.
If you see that one, I remember kind of having my, the covers up, and I'd be like, what is that? But it freaked me out, even though I didn't know what the movie was. But I would, like, when the movie came out, I snuck into midnight shows and got caught scenes of that stuff. And after that, I was like, I don't know why I was scared of that. But kind of to this day,
because there was
that trailer,
the thumping, of the music, and then you heard all those really weird sounds that you hear at the very beginning in Dawn of the Dead when she's just kind of waking up.
Yeah, dude, it just really, even nowadays, I get kind of this weird. I get a weird vibe. That really got me as a kid. So
that trailer, and then the trailer for Magic, which freaked people out, which was a slow zoom in on the ventriloquist dummy's head, and he recites a little poem.
Abracadabra, I sit on his knee. Presto, changeo, and now he is me. Hocus pocus, we take her to bed. Magic is free. We're dead.
Josephine Levine presents Magic, a terrifying love story starring Anthony Hopkins, Anne Margaret, and Burgess Meredith.
That freaked a lot of people out. I had a babysitter. Shout out to Ruth Kime, who's probably not listening to this, but she came over. Great babysitter, by the way. She worked at Baskin Robbins, so when she left her shift, she brought us ice cream when she babysat.
Nice.
But she would let us stay up late, and we would watch Flash Gordon, you know, when it was on Channel 50 and other stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when that Magic was in the zeitgeist when it was coming out, like my Charlie McCarthy doll had to go away the entire time. She could not have that.
Bob's got some stuff in just his background right now when I'm looking at it, that anything on that shelf that he's got back there as a kid would scare the holy hell out of you. Even Frankenstein would scare you if you were of a certain age, you know? I mean, there's a young me out there that's terrified of a werewolf movie called, I think it's called Curse of the Werewolf.
Oh, yeah.
It's a Hammer
great
film?
Hammer movie, yeah. Oliver Reed.
Yeah, Oliver Reed. Dude, that thing terrified me as a kid, but I loved it every time it was on some Saturday afternoon. I've never not watched it, you know.
One of the first very scary things I remember watching as a little kid was House on Haunted Hill with Vincent Price.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Because there's a scene where this old crone kind of comes out, just zooms in out of the darkness, and she's like, like this. And in the end of the thing, she's the blind housekeeper or something.
Oh,
but there's also like a skeleton coming out of a vat of acid, and all that immediately made me like a William Castle, Vincent Price fan. Immediately.
Well, Bob, let me ask you really quick. Like that Kolchak the Night Stalker, is that something you regular around, or you're just talking about that pilot? I mean, did you go back to it, you know, even though that kind of stuff scared you?
The pilot was the one that was the movie of the week, and then it became the series, right? And
right.
Kind of redid a vampire one with the woman, I think was a vampire.
Yeah, that was the first episode.
That was okay. Yeah.
The freakiest one, and I know we talked about it, was the zombie episode. Which,
the zombie episode.
That was another scene that scared the crap out of me as a kid, where Kolchak was trying to kill the zombie, right? So
right. This episode we're dealing with a voodoo zombie as opposed to like a Romero zombie.
Right.
So he needs to put some kind of salt or something in his mouth while he's asleep and sew his lips together.
Yeah, to kill the zombie.
That's kind of the incantation to kill the zombie. And as he puts the salt in and he's about to put the thread to the lip, the zombie's eyes wake up. And it was the scariest shit.
Oh,
and
wow.
As a kid, you're like...
Do I seem to remember that the zombie is like laying in the back of like a station wagon at a junkyard
van or a truck or something. Yeah, junkyard. That's right.
Over the zombie, he's got to crawl in over the zombie to get to him to do that.
Yeah.
Oh
so
my
he's really
awesome.
Intimate with the zombie. Yeah.
That's awesome. I got to ask you guys this. So Bob has got he's got the Night Stalker. That's on lock. That's clearly something that has influenced him or Kolchak. You know, I mean, is that a correct statement? Like that's got to be like your show,
yeah, I just love Darren McGavin's great. I love everything, the gumshoe detective kind of thing. He's a reporter, but yeah, it's like a gumshoe detective and bumbles around.
I liked it, but not to the level of where that's in your soul now, like I've talked about before. Because mine was always the Night Gallery.
I wanted to bring that one up. Yeah, that freaked the crap out of me. The beginning of that, the title sequence.
The title
with
sequence
the warped
alone,
faces.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't make it past the title sequence.
That's my Night Stalker, though. Like, I love that, but I didn't miss Night Gallery. And son of a bitch, it's probably because it was on late night, like before the Stooges.
Right. I was just looking it up because there's an episode on there that is The Dead Man, which that one, like I watched it recently. At the end, it ends up in a cemetery, and it turns out to be something scary in the cemetery and scared the crap out of me too. So that's a really good one, The Dead Man, I think it's called.
There's a lot of good ones, and they also did shorts too. So Night Gallery had
teeny tiny shorts.
Yeah, they had tiny shorts.
I remember one of a guy, and he's hearing his kid like, "Dad, I want a glass of water," you know, and the parents are arguing who's going to get him up and give the baby a glass of water. Do you remember this one?
Yeah.
So the guy finally gets up, and he goes to the bedroom to give, there's like a crib or something. And then when they show you the crib, it's like a Frankenstein, like in the crib. He wanted a glass of water.
Yeah, that was crazy.
It's really weird.
The short that I remember has a dude with I think he's got a lantern, and they're coming down a castle, and it's either a girl or a guy, and I can't remember, but they're coming down and they're talking about what he promised to show, and it's supposed to be a vampire. And they go down and there's the coffin and stuff, and they it's all tension and scary, and he throws off the lid and there's nothing in there, and that person's like, well, I don't understand, you promised me, show me the vampire, and the dude with the lantern's like, surprise, and he's got the fangs and it goes black. So I thought, wow, that's great. But that's one of those short ones, and I remember. I could be misinterpreting it, but
no.
Man,
I always seem to remember one that had William Shatner, and he was kind of like a jerk neighbor to people. He was living in an apartment, and he had this like phobia of spiders, and there was like a spider in his sink, so he washed the spider down the sink, like a teeny tiny spider. And then he went back, and then there was like a tarantula-sized spider in the sink, and then somehow he, I don't know, garbage disposal. Yeah, and by the end of it, like, they go, oh, you're crazy, and they close the door, and there's like this, I don't know, giant Gilligan's Island spider.
Yeah. I forgot about that one. Yeah, everybody recalls that one too.
Halloween specials. Nobody's going to shout out to Charlie Brown and the Great Pumpkin. So
yeah, that's a great one. It's probably that and the Christmas one I love.
Yeah.
Watch that thing religiously and stuff.
So. Those two. The only thing I want to say about Halloween is that, like Christmas for me, my favorite part of Christmas is Christmas Eve, because I love the anticipation of something coming. And Halloween is 30 days of anticipation. That's why I like Halloween so much.
That's a great way to look at it.
That's kind of my whole thing.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't say this. So a long time ago, when I met my wife, and you can see all this stuff behind me, this is normal stuff that stays up 24/7. One of these days, maybe we'll have each other and we'll film certain things. And Bob's got a hell of a basement.
Do a walkthrough of our places.
But we have all this stuff up, and my wife was just like, it's 24/7 Halloween. Like, why we don't decorate for Halloween, because we have this stuff up all the time. Right. So we just kind of live in this, I don't even know what you'd call it, fantasy pseudo horror
macabre,
macabre type of environment, like I'm staring at my Bates Motel sign and stuff. So just really cool stuff like that over the years, those fears for Halloween have brought it into our adulthood. So now that we've embraced it, it's cool stuff just to have around 24/7 stuff. So Bob had some new acquisitions this last week with his signs. I think that's the Halloween one behind him over there.
Yeah,
which
the
they're
Fall
fantastic
Festival.
signs. 3D signs is what they are. Yeah.
So, we're going to lock it down, a little more micro investigation into Halloween through this month of October, right? We have at least 4 episodes kind of planned to be more specific onto topics that are a little more specific stories or topics for Halloween type content. Right. And then we're going to culminate with a special on Halloween, which we are planning to do in person, 3 of us. Right. We'll see if that hopefully will work out. Romero's Living Dead trilogy, which
it's a personal one for me, because I love that trilogy. To me, Halloween every year, and that's why I suggest it to these guys. Night of the Living Dead is my top scary film. By today's standards, though, it seems kind of tame. I caught it at the right time when I was young, and boy, I tell you, it still hangs with me.
And then real quick, I know we're going to try to see The Exorcist Believer and then tie into an episode reviewing that and seeing how it ties into the franchise, and maybe diving in a bit to The Exorcist again. And then hopefully revisiting our vampire episode, specifically on vampires that we promised with our Demeter review a few weeks ago. So we got some fun stuff planned, and hopefully we'll come through for everybody.
And with that, as always, take us out, Bob.
Follow us at the Fandom Outpost on social media and everywhere you get your podcasts. Check out our Instagram page, and we appreciate all the support and likes and subscribes we can get. We just really appreciate everyone participating in our little project. Well, thanks, guys. It was a lot of fun talking about all this, right, guys?
Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. See you, gang.
See you next time.
See you next time.